City is out in theaters on Friday, and it stars a bunch of A-listers like Sandra Bullock, Channing Tatum, Daniel Radcliffe, and Brad Pitt, who is far and away the best part of this whole damn movie. He's comedic gold. I'll talk about him in a minute. Sandra Bullock plays Loretta Sage, a romance novelist who is on a book tour and is actually thinking about giving up the profession of writing as a career. And she's on a book tour with her cover model, and she happens to get kidnapped and taken to a jungle by Daniel Radcliffe's character Fairfax, who is out to find a lost treasure, and now her cover model has to go and save her. I'm going to be quite honest with you guys. Every trailer I saw for The Lost City did nothing for me. I was going to write this movie off. I went into it thinking it was going to be bad. I was really pegging this to be one of the worst movies of the year. Man, consider me shocked. I mean, don't you just love that when trailers don't do anything for you, or the trailers are really bad and the movie is so much better than the actual trailer? Prime example for that for me is Edge of Tomorrow with Tom Cruise. I didn't think anything of that movie, and then it came out and it was a critical acclaim, and then even then I was a bit skeptical, and I finally saw it, and I love Edge of Tomorrow now, and I was happy that I really did end up enjoying The Lost City. It's not a great movie or anything, but it is a lot of fun. It's definitely Indiana Jones, Tomb Raider, insert adventure movie title here, light. But to me, no adventure movie is ever going to top Indiana Jones anyways. I mean, the Indiana Jones movies, aside from Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, are classics in my eyes. But when Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum are on screen together, their chemistry just radiates off of each other. There's a lot of situational comedy in here that really gets going in the second half of the film. Once we get to the actual jungle part of the story, that's where the jokes and the humor really start to kick in, and a lot of them really land. And this is when Brad Pitt comes into the movie, and we all know how good of an actor Brad Pitt is. We all know that he has a lot of range, but I didn't know he had comedic range like this. He's legitimately the best part of the movie. I was dying laughing anytime he was on screen, and it was only for about 5 minutes of the movie. And I just like how this movie played into the cheesy parts of romance novels. It's one of those movies that somewhat addresses obsessed fandom. Like there's fans of Loretta Sage's books that are obsessed with Channing Tatum's character because he's the cover model and he's so hot. And it really just plays into fantasies and fan fictions that people have of certain series. There's jokes around that. I didn't really expect any of that. I just really kind of expected a stupid movie with great actors that was just gonna fall flat on its face and burn and crash and burn and crumble to the ground. But there's a lot more depth to the movie. There's a lot more layers than I thought there would be. For instance, when it does address those cheesy aspects of romance novels, it's not like saying like, okay, now here's the part where the woman, she falls in love with the guy, and now they're gonna kiss and they're gonna start touching each other's bits, because this is a lot more mature. I mean, young ladies, middle-aged ladies, possibly older ladies too, will be really enticed by the fact that Channing Tatum shows his ass in this movie, so you do get to see some of Channing Tatum's bits. There you go, I guess. But surprisingly, like, I didn't really expect the two characters to learn all that much from each other, and I think that actually plays into the strong chemistry that Channing Tatum and Sandra Bullock have on screen. Daniel Radcliffe, for me, was a bit on and off. He's the villain in the movie, something we haven't really seen Daniel Radcliffe play post Harry Potter. So I was actually kind of excited to see how he was going to play a villain. There are instances where I think he is really good, where he is relishing the moment, where he's just like, yeah, finally I can play the villain. And then there's other moments where I feel like he was overacting, overemphasizing. He was yelling lines like he did in Harry Potter at some points, but I just don't think the character was all that great. I thought the character was really weak. When your motivation revolves around family and being like, oh, I'm the second best, or I'm the neglected child, I don't really gravitate towards any of that, and that's exactly what his character was. He was just like, oh, he's out to prove a point. But I will give the movie credit. It wasn't one of those things where he was on the good guy's side, and then halfway through the movie there's this bait and switch where he becomes the main villain because he has his own goals that oppose the goals of the actual good guys, and then it leads to convoluted storytelling. Luckily, there's none of that. This movie is actually pretty straightforward, and I think that's because it's an action movie, it's an adventure movie, it's a romance movie, and a comedy, all rolled into one. I'm bringing Indiana Jones back into the equation for a minute because I think that the Indiana Jones movies have so many moving parts to their story that Steven Spielberg knew how to manipulate those aspects of the script. And those movies just have so many great screenwriters where they can actually give you the element of surprise when another twist happens or another puzzle happens. It just seems like lately with these types of movies, these movies are just made for the sake of being like, hey, it's an adventure film, but let's just make the plot super convoluted and hard to follow after a while, and this puzzle a lot more complicated than it actually should be. There's not a lot of that. It's just a pretty straightforward, all right, here, we got to get to this destination, so let's just go. And that's something that I took to heart. I didn't have to worry about getting so swept up in a very convoluted story. It was just an easygoing and relaxing viewing. The third act has some conveniences where I was just like, I don't really buy that. You know, I know every movie has its plot conveniences, but there's like objects in things and near people that they can use to get out of certain situations, and some other objects or people come and converge all on the same thing, and I'm just like, the timing just doesn't really match up for me. And then there's this character that's introduced about halfway into the movie where I'm like, could do without that. I don't really need him. This just seems like a waste of time. This whole thing could have been avoided if we had just gone down another route. And they chose to take the harder way out, but they thought it was the easy way out. They thought it was the way that they could get around that. They really couldn't. I was very surprised with this movie. I had a lot of fun with it. It is funny enough. That's because the actors play off of each other very well, and the situations that they are put in are really funny. I just think that I wanted a little bit more out of the villain and his motivation. There's a bit too many conveniences, and that character that comes in midway through the movie could have just been shelved, left on the cutting room floor. But a surprising movie nonetheless that I really enjoyed. Not gonna be an Oscar winner, not gonna make my top 10 of the year, but significantly better than I expected. I'm gonna say I really enjoyed The Lost City with 3/4 worth of a bucket of popcorn. So guys, this comes out on Friday. I want to know what you guys think of The Lost City. Drop me some feedback when you do see it in the comment section below. I will leave my link to my website in the description below as well. You guys are the best. Thank you for watching. My name is Alex Madden, and I'll see you at the movies somewhere.